Parkour!
I'm right behind you, Andy! Come on!
Do it!
Yeah! Parkour.
でも必ず叶うと信じてるよくじけない君が好き泣きたい時あるならそばにずっといるから
Hey everybody and welcome back to What the Hell Happened to Them? Season 2, Dwayne The Rock Johnson marches forward, but almost at an end. No Joe this week, sadly, has more parental duties to attend to. Children can be tough that way, but we have not one, but two very special guests to join us this week. Filmmakers Thomas Pallier and returning guest Raghav Puri. Well, thank you guys for coming back, and of course on the audio boards is Lev Van Rensselaer, the audio maven, creating the sounds you are craving. He would like us to remind you all that our sponsor this week is Adopt a Parent. That's right, if you need a parent to go to your sports games or teacher conferences, Adopt a Parent is the way to go. Their patented Find a Creep background search will ensure you that you are always in good hands. And of course, our email is whathappenedtothamcast@gmail.com if you want to yell about anything Thomas says this episode. All right, Thomas, would you like to give us a plot recap of the movie we're doing this week, Skyscraper?
Yes, honestly, it's a little bit like Die Hard with a guy without a leg and some very strange family ties. And in the end, a building is on fire and a very rich Chinese billionaire saves something.
Yeah.
That's
basically what happened. Would you agree with any of that, Raghav?
No, I completely agree. I think that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is basically Die Hard, but different, but not really.
Yeah, you know what? I was always seeing the previews, and like they had just come out with the Poseidon Adventure reboot. I'm just like, oh, this is a Towering Inferno reboot. Very odd.
Yeah, I think they marketed.
But then
like
watching the show, yeah, it is just pretty much Die Hard. That's what it is. Some man going in to save his wife from this crazy hostage situation that ends up being not what we thought it was going to be in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about this movie in terms of Die Hard, that's the biggest problem with this movie, because the good Die Hard movies, they have great villains. They have Peter Gruber, Hans. It's like Hans Gruber, right? Yeah. The German dude. Then they have Jeremy Irons, the third one, and the villain in this one is just a joke, a bunch of I don't know, weirdly European guys, a Danish guy, and the guy is supposed to be like a South African dude and another French dude, maybe, I don't know, and they all look very, very dubious.
No, I think that's an excellent point, actually.
Yeah. The lack of a compelling villain here.
Yeah, because also for the first 30 minutes, I thought the Chinese billionaire was the villain for some reason, and that was a little unclear. But then they also had that woman outside who was the main villain, but she wasn't, because the guy inside the building was the main villain. But both of them had such little character and such little. I wasn't scared of them. I wasn't intrigued by them. I was just okay.
Yeah, it's weird that a movie that was made in the last 10 years has a character that's a billionaire, and they're not the bad guy. In fact, he's just kind of a good dude. He just
but
right?
Think about it, because this movie made a shit ton of money in China, and it's very, very positive with everything that's happening there, because I think it plays in Hong Kong. Yes. Everything is fine. The billionaire is a nice dude, has his dragon on the vault. It's all very chill. And I have to say something else. I did enjoy this movie. I thought it would have been worse, and I think this movie could have been great. But some stuff in the script and the villains is just so awful that I yelled at the screen while I was watching this, and I thought, please don't do, oh no, you could be great, don't do it. But, well, in the end, it's not Die Hard, but it's very successful.
So I have two thoughts on that, but I want to deal with the Chinese one first, because I think it's very interesting, because obviously blockbusters now cost a ridiculous amount of money, and studios want to ensure they're going to make the most. So in fact, a lot of these big blockbuster movies now have to have a Chinese panel watch their films for them to approve it, so that, one, it will play in China, but also learn if it would be successful in China. So Thomas brings up a good point where, China comes off smelling pretty clean in this movie. China very likable in this movie. So of course, why wouldn't you want to do that if you need this $250 million movie to make $750 million? It's got to play well in China.
This movie was $250 million.
I will get the exact box office budget. But
I can jump in here. I think I did some research because I was very interested because this movie kind of fascinates me. It was like 120 million something, 120 to 150 was the budget of the movie.
Yeah.
And the overall gross was like 325 or something. And just 100 million just in China. And
I just want 1 million. I just want one, maybe half.
well,
I mean, honestly,
they don't do
give
that
me
anymore.
100,000 and I'll be fine.
I've lamented about this. Those days are over because you got to swing for the fences each time. Why settle for making $30 million on a movie? You could make $500 million, Raghav.
greed is good.
I'm glad you did some research
the
on this.
Gecko Man said.
Raghav, do you have any thoughts on the pro-Chinese tint of the film? Does that matter for you?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not surprised by it at all. I imagine, I think India, it's slightly different, but I think India has a fairly similar climate in terms of, the movie industry where, if things are made which are anti-India, which they are often, there's a huge, uproar and people, go and protest and, those movies usually happen badly. And, I think in, China where it's, even more, government controlled, I obviously understand them being apprehensive. I mean, I don't understand or appreciate, but I know that they would be apprehensive to see anti-Chinese elements in a movie which don't depict it in great light. And at the end of the day, they want to make money. So
yeah, it's the interesting knot that America's, cultural facade has gotten itself into, because it kind of half the time wants to paint China as this other and this kind of growing dangerous force. But then the other half is well, we really want their money, though. So, the Chinese have to approve all these movies that most of Americans are watching that are, pro-Chinese values in a time when we're, outwardly stating that we don't want Chinese values. So we're in a very tough spot here in America. But to Thomas's point, having watched 34 or 35 of these rock movies already, yeah, Thomas, this one, pretty okay. I've seen some really garbage ones, and I was expecting this movie to be in the same, but kind of works, right? As a blockbuster, which is not something I'm normally drawn to, this one kind of gives me mostly what I want in those.
Yeah, and just think about it, because the crew was, the director usually, this is the guy from Dodgeball. I love Dodgeball, but it's a stupid movie, but I love Dodgeball. I think he just basically only does comedies, but his comedies were so successful, so they made him write this, or they let him write this one, I guess. I don't know. I love you, man. But, and even the DP, I love the DP on this one. It's the Elswit guy. He did all the Paul Thomas Anderson stuff. He did the Mission Impossibles, the third or the fourth one. So they had really good people on here. And I think the biggest achievement of this film, it grabbed me emotionally.
Yeah.
I was kind of sad. I thought, please don't fall in the fire. I was into it. And then stupid shit in the script happened. But in times it was fantastic. So I completely understand why this was successful. But I really think this could have been really, really successful. It would have been a little bit more, nuanced, and some of the completely crazy stuff would have been a little bit more realistic. But I
agree. I don't think I'd go to the extent of Thomas, which is I don't think it could have been really, really successful. But I do think it was quite fun.
Yeah.
I think it could have been better, but I thought it was it was good. It was a blockbuster. I think you were you were getting what you were going in for. So I wasn't surprised by that. The Rock is just, as my partner was put it, he's such a lovable human being. Just when you see him in movies, you're just I do like you, And obviously he's in the sympathetic role here again, because I think he does that well. One thing just baffled me throughout. This is a movie about a building being set on fire, right? For multiple hours.
Yeah.
And not once do we see a single fire engine. I did not understand that. Where are the fire engines? This is a fire in the biggest building in Hong Kong. No one is putting it out?
Yeah, I think a lot of the explanation was one, they were waiting for the building to do it itself. And then afterwards, they were well, it's too high up. The fire trucks can't reach. Was their shitty. But a helicopter, I think they have fire water jets on them that could do something.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I have yet to be charmed by The Rock. I actually like him more when he's in the villain role. But I want to talk about that more when we get to the end about Young Rock. Whether you've watched it or not, I will sort of explain my wacky theories on that.
Yeah.
But to Thomas's point, I was worried I came in here a little biased, because I'm like, oh, of course the movie's working on me. I'm terrified of heights. So every time we're looking over the edge and The Rock almost falls, I'm like, oh, God, I don't want that to, just don't want to see how that would go. But I don't know. Are you guys afraid of heights? If not, it still worked on you? Like, what's sort of the takeaway on that?
I'm petrified of heights. And it did work on me. I think what happened, and it doesn't happen in Die Hard, and Thomas, correct me if you think differently, but like, I think at some point, like, the action was becoming a little repetitive. So I feel like I had seen, when the first 2-3 times it was happening, I was like, ooh, stress. And then after that, I was like, okay, this is nothing new. This is the same, but this is just him and his daughter. So like, you know, like finally at the ending when the mirrors come up and stuff, and like it becomes new again, like something I haven't seen and it progresses. But like the entire middle, I was like, okay, I've seen this multiple times in this film.
Yeah, and it was amazing to me that a lot of the action scenes were really slow, you know, like really slow and completely repetitive. That's also true. I don't know what rating has this movie? Like a PG or PG-13? Because it's I think you never see anyone really die or something.
I think I have found it as PG-13. Yep, that's what I see here.
I don't know. It's just compared with Die Hard. That's also personal, and it's not nonstop action. I think it has a better pacing, and the doses of each like moment is better crafted. You know, this one was sometimes just like action. But that's, I think, something like modern action films have in common. They just have too much of it. It's not well placed, and you don't have like the nice moments to get some breath and the peaks and valleys. It's just like, get it in there and show them what we can do, and it's just too much for me. So.
Well, yeah, the premise itself too doesn't really allow itself to have that quiet moment, because there's no point where the building stops being on fire for a little bit and then reignites again. So like they can't be like, oh, well, this building's on fire, but let's take a breather here. But I think what also helps Die Hard is that the whole point of that isn't like death-defying feats. It's like having to do so much with so little resources. And that's what's kind of compelling, is how creative can he be to work with the little things that he has. And he's getting injured like over time, right? His feet are getting all cut up, his arms are getting injured, but he still has to make it work as he scales his way up this building. Where this is about like, can The Rock rappel? Can he jump through a fan? And The Rock can literally do anything, because he's holding up a bridge.
Even with just one leg, right? He can do everything.
Yeah. So like, here's an interesting thing. If I came to you, you're studio executives, and I come to you and I'm like, all right, I have the script and I have a character and he's an injured IT tech specialist. And you guys were like, yeah, we think The Rock should play him. Like, would that meeting ever happen?
Probably. And they just afterwards would just say, and bring me more Coke to go through the day. This is just crazy. And speaking of Die Hard again, just think about it. Die Hard was about a guy who tried to save his marriage and then ended up in a hostage situation, and stuff happened.
Yeah.
This one was really like, I want to do business and I'm disabled. But I love to see Neve Campbell, by the way.
I feel like, again, like making the comparison to Die Hard, which is like, I understand how they've like used their logic to defy any outside help from like the police entering the building or the fire engines entering the building. But like in Die Hard, like no one knew what was going on for the longest time.
Yeah.
So it made sense that he had to do it all alone. Here, like it's on global television and it's still this one man against the world. And I'm like, yeah, I don't buy it. And I think Thomas like makes a great point about the action scene being really slow.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, you have to put down a plank and cross a bridge not once but twice. And I'm just like, okay, I need to fast forward this because I know what's going to happen. She's not going to fall down. She can't. She's his wife. And
exactly.
Finish the movie. So I'm just going to see them walking really slowly. And I'm like, okay. I also think him being disabled just felt like such an accessory to this movie. I was unsure why they have put it, what place it has, and like how it affects the story. I'm obviously nothing against him being disabled, but like I assume that when they put it so central in the movie in the beginning that he's missing a leg, it would be like crucial to the story and to character. And I feel like they treated it like there's no difference, and I was just like, it's confusing.
No, I think there was a hint at it trying to be like that would be like his arc, like he had PTSD, so he didn't want to screw up anymore, but now he's thrown into the situation. And also to be like Die Hard, maybe it was like he has to overcome this bad leg as a natural defect, but didn't ever really seem to stop him ever.
No. I think in the beginning, I liked the fact that he lost his leg because I mean it's a reality for a lot of American veterans. They come back from the war and they are crippled in their head or with their body. It's awful, you know. And then of course, but The Rock cannot overcome his leg. He just had a leg and he's just kicking ass. And it's just a nice thing of like, yeah, well, you can still be the cool guy and the hero was just a metal leg.
Yeah.
Honestly, I also loved the way they showed his wife was also more interesting than usually that role would be in a film. And she got to kick the ass of the female villain at the end, and she had some strong moments. And although The Rock was allowed to slap her ass in the beginning, she was pretty, I don't know. It was a strong character nonetheless, I thought. It was a good choice in terms of casting on that part, I think.
Yeah, they had to hint at her being formerly in the military so that when she is kicking all the ass, we're like, oh, of course she could.
Combat surgeon.
Yeah, it is
I
interesting that
agree with
The Rock still is able to kick butt. He's like still the size of a giant tank, but has been retired for like 10 years or 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And yet still decided I'm going to work out every fucking day just in case.
Sure.
Even though I'm in IT and I spend 10 hours a day on the computer, I'm going to find the time for leg day.
You know who would have made a compelling villain?
Who?
I'm still thinking about Thomas's point of not being good. I think his friend, if we didn't know he was a villain right in the beginning, I think it would have been compelling. I think it would have been personal. I think it would have been a story about friendship. But like, we just find out in the beginning when he sends that text, and I'm like, oh, please don't show me close-up of text messages on film. That is so unsexy.
Yeah, that's true.
I almost can imagine an early version of the draft where he was the big final villain, and like it just got more and more reduced, and like this was the last vestige of that character's point.
And the most ridiculous like plot twist in terms of villains, and I'm sorry if anyone hasn't seen this because this is a spoiler, but it really isn't. I really didn't care about the insurance guy before or after. So when I found out he was the bad guy, I was like, I don't know what he was doing. Anyway.
Oh, that was the insurance guy.
That was the insurance guy.
Yeah, I love that the movie had to take a moment to be like, this building is so big, it's just impossible to insure. And that's this fun little detail that, like, of course it would be. And, like, that's why this character's here. But then, no, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I don't think the drive makes sense. And again, they have used some scientific logic which probably doesn't make sense of like we will reverse engineer the drive even though there are copies, the copies will... I was just like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. Throw enough science terms at it, we'll just be like, fine, whatever.
It would have been easier to say, I cannot make a copy of this, it doesn't allow me to or something, you know. There are two dialogues though which stuck out to me, and I think they will go down in Hall of Fame history 30 years later. The first one was when The Rock looks at his wife, and you know, when they're like getting out of the crisis, and he says, I love you. And she looks at him and says, you better. And I'm like, if my partner ever told me, you better, I'd just be like, excuse me, I take it back. No.
Exactly.
No.
Same.
In the moment where we're going to die, and the second one, which I promise you will have its own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I wrote it down.
Yeah, I wrote one down too. I thought it was so stupid. It's like, light a man's house on fire and you find out what he truly loves. Maybe that's a saying. Maybe that's a saying. I don't know. But this is so stupid.
Trying to sound hip and cool. Mm-hmm.
The one where he's sitting and he's trying to fix his wound and he says, if you can't fix it with duct tape, use more duct tape. And I was like, no! That is so good, but it's so bad, but it was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, he had like surprisingly few great one-liners. Just like two, maybe. And there's not.
So it's surprising that he had any, or it's surprising that he didn't have more?
No more. I mean, the writer, it's a comedy writer, this director, you know? I think he never did anything close to something like that. But his comedies, I think they made a lot of money and were pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
I was just surprised that, I mean, you said that you don't have like too much love for The Rock. I always had some love for The Rock, although sometimes I think it's a little bit questionable what's going on here. But this like twinkle in his eye that he has, sometimes it's like really honest and it comes across. And I just love that because it's like very film star-y, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think he should have had more of those moments. And yeah, the duct tape quote is stupid, but I thought it was great. So
let's talk about the room at the top of the building that Chinese guy calls heaven. What the F is that room? What is it supposed to be? What is its function? Did you guys get it?
It's it's a gimmick to have like a visually interesting ending. They set it up in the beginning just to set up the ending, you know?
Yeah, I'm just trying to
And
think, why
it's
would he
just-
build this? What's the goal?
I mean, it's a ripoff from what's the Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun, basically same. With the mirrors and stuff. I mean, this was like a lot of movies try to rip off on that. So
Yeah, it actually goes back. It reminds me of the climax scene of the Lady from Shanghai, an old Orson Welles noir that kind of had its climax in a funhouse. Very interesting. Yeah, Raghav?
It's actually a rip-off, and this is breaking news right here.
Yeah.
It's actually a rip-off from one of India's most famous fashion ads. There's one very silly ad which has Priyanka Chopra, who's India's like one of India's most famous actresses, and she's now married to Nick Jonas. She's like walking through this room with all of these like mirrors, and there are reflections, and like it's basically the same thing, but it's not action. But,
Okay.
Yeah. This has been like,
And then the plan is to use it at the end. And part of the plan is The Rock saying this wasn't part of the plan. Really meta there. Really only for us, the audience, to think the plan has gone wrong. They didn't need to know there was a plan, the villains. But then it was all part of the plan, so it was okay.
yeah, that I didn't understand. It was like, it was a part of the plan, right? Because there's no way that he can hide a gun like under the duct tape bullshit, and then The Rock didn't know. So, but they said, "Well, what did you do? I almost believe what you were saying. Whatever."
the plan was to pretend like they didn't have a plan.
The plan was to have a plan that went wrong, but that was the plan. That it wasn't
Very
wrong.
revisionist of them.
Yeah, I guess.
Don't, Thomas, don't.
Yes, and then they have, of course, that big fight scene as they go through the end, and then it looks like The Rock is at gunpoint, but it turns out he's behind it, which feels a little Deus Ex Machina, but fine. Probably was cool, I guess.
They missed out on such a great ending, you know. Just think about the beginning with the stupid suicide bomber vest is also very questionable choice. But then in the end, it's basically the same scene, but now he's like sneaking from behind. You know, why don't just in a millisecond just shoot the guy in the head and give him the line like, "I guess you never read my file, asshole," or something. That would be fucking awesome. I would have cheered, give it to the guy, but that just took too long. That's another thing. They had a lot of setups.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened, and then way too late something happened. You know, like when the Chinese guy in the police, one of the police, the lower policeman in the truck that was watching like the news feeds or whatever, and then I think the Rock finally made the jump, and he was like cheering for The Rock, but this was like 3 or 4 cuts too late. It was like, well, yeah, that happened like 2 minutes ago, you idiot. It's just strange.
No, I completely agree with like Thomas's point of like it being set up and not being like delivered. Because the last scene just makes you go like, oh, this is the first scene, but he didn't like pull the trigger in the first scene. This time he's going to, and like you expect that and you want that almost, but then like he finds some other way to deal with it. Now that's a bummer.
Yeah, they want to take advantage of their mirrors, I guess, since we spent 20 minutes hanging out in there.
And probably 20 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not cheap. That was not cheap.
Another thing that they set up that never really matters is that the son has asthma. And when that's announced, I go, well, of course, because drama. But then asthma never became a problem in that he's actually one of the first people out of there.
Yeah. And he's like randomly coughing in the middle, and you think it's going to do something, and I'm just like, oh well, that was fine.
Yeah.
Oh man, those children are going to grow up with a lot of issues for having to suffer through that kind of an event. Yeah. I would not want to be them. That would be very stressful, and particularly with asthma. Oh.
Yeah, they will never trust bodybuilders from Denmark. That's for sure.
One of the hardest things to believe in this movie is that the bad guy who dies very quickly, that's The Rock's old friend, is like, I've got your family tickets to see the pandas. And the kids are so excited. Pandas are so effing boring. They just sit there, they sleep, maybe they'll eat, mostly they'll sleep. They're animals that are too lazy to have sex with each other. Why would you want to go and watch them just hang around all day? At night, you watch them at night, you can't see half of them. That's my bullshit call on this.
But I think that's the fact of the year that they're too lazy to have sex with each other. But I think they are so cute. I think pandas are just like cute bears. My favorite line in all of cinema history in the last 20 years has been in Kung Fu Panda, where he looks at the stairs and he's like, my old nemesis, stairs. And I think just because a panda is saying that, it makes that so funny. Like when you're like, if Lion King, if that line was the Lion King, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care. Because it's a panda.
Thomas, are you pro or anti-panda?
I'm not sure. They're very cute, but I guess it's you either love them or hate them. Maybe it's like compared to there are people out there that are too stressed to have sex, and there are people out there they are so stressed they need sex right away to get like less stress. So you have to pick your side. I'm still on the fence here. I don't know.
Yeah,
Patrick, you gave Thomas the perfect leeway to go into talking about sex. That was easy.
Yeah, Thomas, you sad there wasn't more sex in this movie?
Well, honestly, no. There was just the butt slap, but it's fine.
The butt slap was enough.
I guess. This movie did not need any nipple scenes.
Also, no. It didn't. But, like, what was that subplot about the phone being fixed in the first scene? I really thought there was something significant. They spent a lot of time talking about a phone which wasn't working and needed to get fixed. And I was just like, what is happening?
I don't even remember this. Thomas, do you know what he's talking about?
I have no clue.
Yeah.
In the first scene of the movie, when he's with his wife and his wife has broken his phone. And
of course. That is the setup for the big solution. Turn the building on and off. And it worked.
Yes.
It's like, you stupid idiot, just reboot the building and everything would have been fine. We would have not have a movie, It's really...
Yeah, and it's not even a setup for her to learn it. It's just a setup for us to be like, when she does it, we're not like, that's all it took? That was stupid.
Yeah. But we all know it's all that's
That makes sense.
Yeah, 1 billion people are watching this and no one's like, hey, you try unplugging and plugging it back in? That's every IT's go-to. How is it not The Rock's go-to? IT people are annoyed when people come to them without doing that first.
I saved a lot of issues. And honestly, like, really hard punching a computer or something.
Yeah.
Just smashing it.
And the third one was, it was unplug, plug, punch the computer. Or the third one was, if you had a disc and it wasn't playing, use some spit in the back of the disc and put it back in, and it works.
Yeah, sir.
Tried and tested.
Yeah, I don't know about your age bracket there, Raghav, but Thomas and I grew up in an age where games were on cartridges. And so when they didn't work, you had to blow into them. But now I'll just blow on things that aren't cartridges. Like, that's my go-to. Like, I'll blow off a disc, or I'll like clean off my phone blowing clearly wouldn't help in that situation, but I'm just so trained from these Nintendo cartridges.
Yeah. No, totally. Blowing and sometimes like gentle, like a gentle slap on the other hand, like.
Exactly.
It worked usually too.
Does not work on digital products, but we still do it. We're very brave souls there.
No, try to fix Wi-Fi blowing it.
Yeah, so Thomas, earlier you brought up Neve Campbell, right? And I don't think I've seen her since any of the Scream movies, right? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yes, and sorry for butchering her name, but I grew up in Germany, and when I was watching Scream, everybody said, "This is Neve Campbell," because we cannot speak English. But okay, Neve Campbell. Yeah. Yes. I think it's the first time I've seen her in forever, and I thought she was great. I always thought she's great. I don't know what happened to her after the Scream trilogy and whatever.
Now I'm going to look her up, see what she's been into in the meantime. But while I do that, I would never live in that building. Too tall. Would you guys do it?
No.
Terrifying, right?
Too stressful.
I'm afraid of heights too.
Right, and the building is so tall it can't be insured. I'm not staying in that building. That's not a good sign.
That is a real thing. It's too tall and we can't insure it.
I don't like, that's how just like unstable or how easy it is to kind of break. Like, I think you would have to just get like a huge like rider, like it'd have to be such a big premium you pay on it because of it, right? And also like it costs like $1 billion or something to make. So I don't know. All right, I thought the most
unnecessarily dramatic moment was when The Rock looks at him and says at the billionaire, like, "What are you gonna do next?" And there's like a beat and there's like that cinematic music which kicks in, and he's like, "Rebuild."
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I love that. I knew it was coming, but I thought, yes, thank you very much. That's what Hollywood is, that nice moment rebuilt.
Yeah.
We're all friends here, and China, America, whatever.
Yeah, we can do it. All right, so here's some post-Scream 2 things that Neve Campbell's been in. Wild Things, right? Could we forget about that? That's a pretty big movie.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
Lion King 2. She was in the second one. Wild Takes, which looks like it's just a video of all the clips that got cut out of the movie. I don't know, 3 to Tango, Drowning Mona, Panic, Scream 3. And then it looks like some TV shows, Party of 5, Medium. So it didn't go, Churchill, the Hollywood years. I'm not even sure.
I don't know what happened. I have no clue if she had like a family or she had problems because she was so successful with Scream. I don't know. I have no clue.
Reefer Madness, the movie musical. What? Something called I Really Hate My Job.
I haven't heard about.
I don't know. The Philanthropist, that's a TV show. Scream 4, she was in. The Glass Man, Titanic miniseries, Grey's Anatomy, Mad Men, Welcome to Sweden. It's also a series, I guess. Skyscraper. And what's she been in since? Something called Clouds. And she's going to be in the upcoming Scream movie that comes out in 2022, where she looks like she's playing her same character.
First thing, why do they have so many Scream movies?
I don't know.
5 is a bit much. And second thing, Clouds feels like such a natural progression from Skyscraper.
I thought the same thing. Yeah, it's just the sequel.
Well, here it is. It's Skyscraper, Hot Air, Castle in the Ground, Clouds. Those are the movies immediately afterwards.
Yeah, there's a pattern, man. There's a pattern.
It seems she's getting typecast now in Air movies, I guess.
The last tiny thing which bothered me about this film. It was fun. It was entertaining. I laughed in certain moments. I felt in certain moments. It was classically what I expected. And I think the writers were like creative in like moments. I think the director was creative in moments. What really gets my goat is I feel like no one spent more than 3 seconds deciding the title of this movie. Skyscraper? Really?
Yeah.
That is the most boring title in all the titles.
Yeah.
Skyscraper.
Were really bad title. Yeah.
No, just call it like building or like, I don't know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, oh shit, this thing is huge. You know, like something.
That's more fun. That is more fun.
They could have gone with a portrait of a building on fire to get like the indie audience, you know?
Thomas, I think that is the best thing you have said all day. Amazing. I love that. I love that. You should come up with better titles.
You know, totally. With a movie called Skyscraper that I knew was about a man climbing up a building on fire, I was actually surprised at how serious the movie was in the first, 6 minutes. Like, there's a dangerous hostage situation. A man blows up himself and his kid. The Rock loses his leg. I'm like, shit, I thought we were getting Goofy Rampage here. But then you know what? Goofy Rampage came. We just had a weird tone shift 20 minutes into the movie, I guess.
I'm not sure which one I prefer, like Rampage or this one.
Yeah.
That's tough. Really, that's tough. Because, no, I think this one, I like this one more. Because this one touched me really a little bit on an emotional level. Because it worked for me, you know? And Rampage was fun. I watched it with a friend. Yeah. So. Rampage
certainly knows what movie it is. Leans into it heavy, doesn't care, and there is something refreshing about that. But I'm not quite sure if it was emotion for me, but maybe there was something more engaging about it. I was more keyed in, and maybe because I could relate to being afraid of falling off a building more than being afraid of a giant monkey that flips me off all the time. I don't know, but there was something here. Maybe even though it was ridiculous, there was something grounded about it because what he's dealing with more than mercenaries with excessive use of guns is not falling down and not catching on fire. They should have
got, sorry, I spent the last minute trying to think about alternative titles. And they should have gotten Adele to sing the theme song. Let the skyscraper fall, let it tumble. Thomas, if you were in person, you would have laughed more.
I laugh.
I think you could have sold the serenading more,
laughs, you know?
Right? You could have gotten up to him and stroked his chin.
I had a very podcast unfriendly laugh. It was very silent, but very obvious, you know, my mouth moving. Yeah.
So now what we do, part of the theme of the show is, because it's called What the Hell Happened to Them, is why, although The Rock is kind of the reverse of our usual go-to, why do we think The Rock picked this movie? What drew him to this? He's already been in 3 other movies this year. Why add this to it? What do you guys think? Explosions.
I would be surprised if he didn't produce it.
No,
I think it's easy money.
He has a producing credit on it.
Yeah, he's gotten those on the last 10 films he's done. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I really think this was an easy sell for The Rock.
Yeah.
100% they said this is like Die Hard meets Towering Inferno, whatever the movie is called, modern thing. We have big money from Asia. This will be huge worldwide. I guess a lot of his fan base is probably Middle America, maybe even like military related. This is like completely in sync with the PTSD, with the leg. I think the overall idea for this thing is fantastic. It's just exactly what you want to give your audience. So I think, why not? And
I think you're right bringing up sort of the foreign money aspect, because I think it's like, hey, Rock, do a movie and you'll play huge in China. You love America loving you. Wouldn't you also love China? Now you got like 1/3 of the whole world in your pocket. Thomas, you're from Germany. Raghav, you're from India. Do you know how well The Rock plays over there?
Oh, very well.
Yeah.
And like WWE was quite the sensation back in the day in India. And The Rock was obviously the sensation of wrestling back then. So like he is very popular as a result.
I had no idea. That's crazy. So they just like his movies.
Yeah.
Okay. You, Thomas?
yeah, same thing. He's pretty huge in Germany too. Like wrestling is not very big in Germany, but for a certain like span of your life as a young boy, you kind of like wrestling in Germany too. And I guess a lot of people saw him first there. And I think the first time I never saw him wrestle because I was too old when he was. I think he started his wrestling career after I left the whole wrestling bullshit. Okay. And the first thing I saw with him was this walking tall.
Oh yeah.
When he has like the what's his like? What do you call those wood things?
Yeah, it's like
instead of a gun, he's carrying like this plank of wood, and he's slapping people because like the sheriff of this town, and he's dealing with drugs and illegal gambling or something. Yeah, and they set him up to be more of like an R-rated movie star. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, that's interesting, and then he became this huge phenomenon.
Yeah, those were like borderline, nearly direct to DVD movie type of things. That movie, in fact, like we were just complaining yesterday about how long these Rock movies are, but that movie he did, Walking Tall, the running time says like 89 minutes, but it's actually 75, and the whole rest is credits. It's like 15 minutes of straight credits.
That's my kind of movie.
And like the first movie he did was The Scorpion King, and that movie had like 7 other direct-to-DVD sequels with other wrestlers. But I like you guys bringing up wrestlers, and it sounds like the WWE imported well into your countries, but did your countries also have their own wrestling circuits and things like that?
Not like entertainment wrestling, really. Okay. Not really.
Just sort of like Greco-Roman sport wrestling?
Yeah, that was like the boxing was like more common than wrestling.
Okay.
But like not really wrestling. I mean, there were like some like bad spin-offs and knockoffs.
Yeah.
But nothing popular.
And what about Thomas?
I think in the late 90s, wrestling was really big in Germany. They even had at the time it was like the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
So, and they actually played big stadiums in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my childhood friend. He was like a big Bret the Hitman Hart fan. He had the sunglasses thing or whatever you call it. And we tortured his little brother with like all the stuff he could do in the wrestling world, like sharpshooter or whatever he did. Yeah, it was something, but it's not like huge. But it's huge enough that they brought the whole circus to Germany and had shows.
So what do you think that the WWE is offering whichever time period you were in, that these Rock blockbuster videos are offering? Like, what do you think about them as similar, and what do you think about them travels so well globally?
Good question.
I think the wrestling is mostly a male-oriented thing, but I think The Rock now is just a phenomenon. Everybody kind of likes The Rock. Like, if you talk overall audience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the wrestling thing is for young boys, in my opinion.
Okay.
Just grew out of it.
So you think they aren't similar? You would argue that those two things are different.
Yeah, completely different. The thing that connects both is, I guess, the wrestling thing is so theatrical and so over the top, and he's just an over the top person. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't know, 2.5 meters, whatever that is in your crazy system.
So, yeah.
And then he's just a huge guy, and then like the bald head, smiling all the time. He's just larger than life. He's the perfect wrestler because he had like the body, but I think his personality also shows that he's the perfect film star, and he's not a bad actor for what he's doing. You know, he's always playing himself in a way, so he has the twinkle in the eye. Yeah. He's like witty, and it just works as a character. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the phrase Thomas just used, larger than life, I think that's exactly like the similarity between both. I feel like both wrestling and his blockbusters are just like larger than life. And we all know it's not real, but like we all believe it's real for that moment. And I mean, they're both like, they're meant to be fun and nothing more.
Yeah.
Do you think also that both of those things have traveled well because you come from countries where English is sort of a strong language presence?
I would imagine so. Yeah. I think that makes sense to me.
That's funny in Germany because that has nothing to do with the English language in Germany, because everything, no matter what we see, is dubbed into German. So, and we actually do a pretty well job with it. I saw a lot of dubbed movies from different countries, and I really think the German ones are like on number one, like with no competition. It's really, really, really good stuff. I mean, if you understand the language, of course, it's weak compared to the original. But if you compare to other dubbing, it's just fantastic. So almost everything can have a market in Germany, no matter the language, because we do like a really good job with like dubbing it.
How did Germany, as a brief tangent, how did Germany feel about the Baywatch movie? Was that successful there?
So me, as Germany, I love the Baywatch movie because I liked Baywatch. This was, I was probably too young to be like the target audience when it came out, but I watched it. I was more, I'm German. We love David Hasselhoff.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I love Knight Rider. I have to love Baywatch. I love David Hasselhoff. That's what it is. And I think their take on Baywatch, I loved because it was completely so bogus and they did not like try to convince me that this is serious. They just had fun. It was over the top, and I love that. It was just fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you for being a spokesperson for all of Germany there.
Absolutely.
Big help. All right. So we've talked about The Rock being larger than life. I think this is a good segue to take a brief detour over to discussing The Young Rock, this week's episode. Lev, make the cue.
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople, been a long time gone.
Now, you didn't have to watch it, but did either of you watch the season 1, episode 8 of Young Rock?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So the quick recap is the high school version of The Rock's past timeline. He wants to impress a girl at school, but he's too poor, so he pretends to be rich, and that works out about as well as it does in any sitcom. We don't need to harp on that, but I want to talk about, what do you think of this frame story of The Rock running for president in 2032 and telling us different stories from his elementary school days, his high school days, and his college days? This week we got a high school day, but how are you guys feeling about that?
I think, I'm not surprised. I truly believe in the land of the free, anyone can run for president. We've seen it before, so we'll see it again.
Yeah.
B, I have a question. I haven't seen the other episodes. Is every episode framed like this in terms of its structure, where it starts in the real world and goes to a flashback to the rest of the episode?
Yeah, it changed. The reason why he ends up telling a story changes. Like this week's episode 9, was like he was at a debate. They're like, what do you want your legacy to be as a president? And he's like, well, let me tell you a quick story. And of course, the story takes the whole episode, so it's like 20 minutes, and then they yell at him afterwards for going over time. But yeah, sometimes he's in an interview with Randall Park. But like in other ones, he's had to defend, like he picked Rosario Dawson, not really, but like Rosario Dawson was playing an army general, and he picked her to be his vice president, and he had to kind of defend that. So like he would tell a story about why strong women are important, and he talked about his grandmother and his mother and things like that.
The vicious thing here is it comes across as a joke, but I think deep down, if they would ask him, he would run for it. Let's see. Maybe I can say it's just a joke, just fun, just entertainment. Yeah. Fast forward, I do solemnly swear.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this all, Raghav?
About the show?
Yeah, well, I guess about Rock running for president, and then we can talk about what high school Rock is like.
It's fine. I feel like I didn't go into it prepared.
Yeah.
I went into it prepared thinking that it's going to be about The Rock. And it's going to be a show about The Rock. So like the framing threw me off. Because I feel like I saw The Rock for 3 minutes out of 25.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would have rather seen The Rock a little more, I think. I thought it was a little silly. I thought in moments it was sweet and fun and cute. Mm-hmm. But it was also a little silly at the same time. Would I watch more? Maybe. But it was fine.
Yeah. So like I said, there are 3 timelines, and we switch each week. So like the high school Rock and the college Rock, they're kind of okay. They get some good jokes in there. But elementary school Rock is weird because like he's rarely in it. It's more about his parents and these famous wrestlers like Andre the Giant and the Slim Jims guy. I forget his name. Like those guys like hanging out with his parents and the struggles they go to because he's too young to have like real problems. And the writer of it, she was the showrunner of both Fresh Off the Boat and Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. And I sort of like both those shows. This show seems to have neutered her a little more than those shows, but you get kind of weird jokes in here. Like the remake of Matilda was not violent enough. And like the pizza shop guy being like, you need clams and linguine to win a lady over.
I love that scene. So stupid.
That was great. Why don't we have clams and linguine? Because we don't have insurance.
Yeah,
essentially the same premise as Skyscraper.
Yes, exactly.
The same premise as Skyscraper.
But to Thomas's point, I think there is something very sinister about this show, right? I think The Rock... I think especially in the last 5-6 years, The Rock is plotting a run for president. Maybe not 2032, but like somewhere in the future. So he wants to get big in with the foreign powers and their audiences. He wants to be popular around the world. All this, you haven't watched all the episodes, but all it is The Rock just telling about how great and self-made he is. You know, how good he is to demographics, and he pulled himself up by his bootstraps, and he's like a strong, tough country boy, but has some liberal policies to him too. All it is a free campaign plug that they're paying him to do.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
It's completely crazy.
That's stressful.
Yeah. And so like you guys find him most of America finds him to be charming. I've yet to get it. He reminds me of like the guy in high school that like knows he's all hot shit and like plays with you, but like he's secretly mocking you, but plays it off like he's being your friend. I'm not falling for it, The Rock. I see your game. That's my crazy conspiracy theory.
I could believe that. And 10 years later, when he is running for president, this episode is going to be quoted many a time.
Right? Yes. Like he's controlling his own narrative here years in advance, so we don't realize it's happening. And then, the show's gonna end, and people are like, you know what? If The Rock were president, I'd be okay with that.
And I think it's incredible and can only happen in this country that two people associated with World Wrestling Entertainment have become presidents of this country. Amazing.
You know, I talked about this in a mini episode a few weeks ago. I don't know, 54% of the country right now would want The Rock to run for president. Right now.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, the 2032, it'll be earlier.
Yeah. So I don't think it would be, what year is it now? I don't think it would be 2024. So 2028, yeah. I just don't think I don't think he'd be a Republican, so I don't think he'd run against Biden. Like that would be a weird Democratic choice to make.
Is he a Democrat? No, he's a Republican.
I think he would be a Democrat. So 2028, but maybe the implication there is because the presidential party often loses after a 2-term president, other than very rare exceptions, that he's just like, well, that Republican will win for a term and then I'll come back. But maybe he's just trying to cast it far enough away so that we don't think the sinister thoughts that I have of The Rock making a puff piece for himself. Because The Rock has a hard time in the segments that he's in, like being the butt of any jokes. He always has to be the cool guy. You don't see it so much in this Philadelphia cheesesteak episode, but like when he's doing these interviews with Randall Park, like Randall Park's always the butt of the jokes. And The Rock's just sitting there, like sleepwalking through the role and being like, okay, well, let me tell you a story here. I'm very serious now. And the third episode ended with like an actual factual campaign ad where like The Rock is walking through a factory, and he's like, we put workers first here in America. It was so insane, the show.
That's stressful.
I know. So yeah, 2032, it'll be The Rock versus Matthew McConaughey. Like that'll be that presidential election.
Ooh, that will be very interesting.
That's what we do now. It's all American Idol all the time. I don't know how your countries get to avoid this drama altogether, where you're just like, hey, let's vote for.
Yeah.
Oh no, we never vote for people.
No, you don't do that there.
I mean, I don't have anything against like actors running for president or whatnot. That doesn't matter. You can be the right guy for the job and had a career that's questionable before.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love The Rock and what he does best, being The Rock and being an international movie star. I'm not really seeing him as a world leader in politics, you know. Maybe I could be wrong, who knows, but then I'm more Team Arnold, to be honest.
Yes.
I mean, he's actually doing stuff, and you know, he's all the climate stuff he's still doing, and he's
he'll be back.
He'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. I mean, he would have run for president if he'd be born here, you know.
Probably. I mean, he did
and
win
that's
governor.
another flaw. I think isn't The Rock Canadian? I mean, he's born here. I know, but I think
He's American Canadian.
What's that, American Canadian?
He became he got Canadian citizenship in 2010 because of his father, but he's originally American
Okay.
citizen.
Yeah, he was born in Hawaii, so he gets like a special treatment.
Or was he born in Hawaii?
Yeah. All right. So Thomas, you'd be okay with another gubernatorial term of Schwarzenegger for California?
I mean, honestly, I'm just a big fan of people that try to unite, and despite the fact that he's a Republican, he did a lot of very Democrat moves, and he was always interested in having a dialogue. A lot of people hate him, and if you talk to people that work in the industry, they hate him even more. No, we have to get rid of this guy. Yeah, whatever. I think if there's someone who's able to unite people from both sides of the spectrum, that's something that we need right now, people that unite instead of separate people even more. So that's why I kind of think that he was a good guy.
And I agree with that quite a bit. Sadly, though, it seems our country doesn't want to support those people anymore. Like if you're not taking everything for us and none for them, then you're viewed as ineffective or you're viewed as part of the problem. So it's going to be hard to find a glue to that sometime in the near future. Well, on that depressing note, do you guys have any last looks you want to give? Any thoughts about The Rock or the movie or the TV show?
The Rock was
maybe?
born in California, man.
The Rock was born in California. That's what you said. That's what it says.
This is just so bugging me.
He's of Samoan descent, though.
Yeah, wasn't he living in Hawaii?
Yeah, Joe had told me Hawaii. That's what I went off. But yeah, young Rock, he's definitely in Hawaii with his grandmother, and then high school Rock is in Pennsylvania, and then he's in Florida for college. I don't know
Pennsylvania.
About
Oh, right, he's coming. Yeah, what a life, man. The Hawaiian, Pennsylvanian, Florida dude. I guess he has to be the president now. He had everything.
He's been everywhere. He's seen it all. Yeah. What about you, Raghav? Any last looks on this week's episode?
No, it was lovely to be here with you and Thomas as usual. It was really fun.
All right. Well, let's, of course, thank Lev Van Rensselaer for minding those audio boards, making us sound all slippery smooth. Let me thank my guests, Thomas Pallier and Raghav Puri. Do you guys have any places people can find you if they want to see any of your films or photos or anything of that like?
Raghav, go ahead. Pitch your story.
I'm on Instagram and I'm on Vimeo, and you can find me under my name there.
All right. Thank you. And Thomas, anything where we can find your stuff?
Yeah, just look me up on Instagram. It's at the pallier. So
at the pallier? I love it.
At the pallier,
All right. And I am your host, Patrick Scale. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at quixoticunited.com and social media, presumably with a similar sounding name. Thank you all for listening. Thomas, say goodnight.
Goodbye.
So first, before we get into this, I just want to say I'm sorry that you had to watch this movie. I have a lot harder time bringing on guests for Rock's movies than Sandler's movies, because they're, at least when Sandler's movies are dumb, they're kind of fun, but The Rock's been tricky, so I always feel bad for the guests when they come on. But I appreciate you toughing this one out as we get to the end of the season. And Raghav, you, in fact, one of the most requested guests to come back. So I'm glad we were able to have you on this week.
White guilt.
White.
I'm very sorry, man.
I regret being on this with Thomas.
This will haunt you for the rest of your career.
Okay, but we'll just jump on in a quick second. Let me just get a little room tone here so I can take that out later.